Hello everyone and welcome to the Young and the Restless channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The storm doesn't arrive all at once. It builds, quietly at first, like a distant rumble no one takes seriously until it's already too late. That's exactly where Nick Newman finds himself now, caught in the middle of a dangerous emotional and physical spiral that's tightening around him with every passing moment. What began as a single tragic event has unraveled into something far more consuming, something that's no longer within his control. The car crash caused by Matt Clark was the spark, the moment everything shifted, leaving Nick injured and vulnerable in ways he never expected. The pain in his leg was real, sharp and relentless, and the painkillers prescribed to him felt like a necessary relief at first, a temporary solution to a very real problem. But as the days wore on, the line between healing and dependency began to blur, and without even realizing it, Nick stepped onto a path that would pull him deeper into darkness. Driven by anger, pride, and a relentless need for justice, Nick made a choice that would change everything. He checked himself out of the hospital far too soon. Instead of resting, instead of allowing his body the time it desperately needed to heal, he threw himself into a mission to track down Matt Clark, pushing his injured leg far beyond its limits. Every step he took came with a cost, every movement fueling the pain that refused to subside. And with that pain came more pills, more reliance, more justification for something that was slowly taking control of him. What started as prescribed medication soon became something far more dangerous as Nick crossed a line he never thought he would, switching to fentanyl, a drug far more powerful and unforgiving than anything he had taken before. His trip to Las Vegas only deepened the spiral, where he didn't just secure more of the drug but walked away with an extra baggie, an ominous bonus that symbolized just how far he had already fallen. In Nick's mind, there's still control, still the belief that he can manage this, that he can stop whenever he chooses. But the truth is far more unsettling, and it's becoming increasingly obvious to those around him. The subtle changes in his behavior, the moments of distraction, the shifts in his personality, they are no longer easy to ignore. His loved ones are beginning to notice, to question, to worry, even as Nick tries to maintain the illusion that everything is under control. But addiction doesn't work that way, and the deeper he sinks into its grip, the more unpredictable and dangerous his actions become. It's not just about the drugs anymore, it's about the emotional toll, the mental unraveling, and the growing distance between the man Nick once was and the person he's becoming. Behind the scenes, this storyline has taken on a life of its own, with Joshua Morrow stepping into one of the most challenging arcs of his career. Even he admits that this direction for Nick came as a surprise, a sharp turn into territory that demands vulnerability, intensity, and emotional honesty. Yet, instead of shying away, he embraced it fully, determined to make every moment feel real, to make the audience feel the weight of Nick's descent. He speaks about wanting viewers to truly experience the journey, to witness the spiral, the struggle, and hopefully the possibility of redemption. Because at the heart of it all, there's still hope, even if it's buried beneath layers of pain and poor choices. There's still the belief that Nick can find his way back, that he can emerge from this darkness as someone stronger, someone changed in ways that matter. But hope alone isn't enough. Not when denial still stands in the way. Right now, Nick remains trapped in a mindset that refuses to accept help, a mindset that has defined him for so long. He's always been the one who shows up for others, the one who takes control, who fixes problems instead of becoming one. The idea of needing help, of admitting weakness clashes with everything he believes about himself. And yet, as this story continues to unfold, that belief will be tested in ways he never imagined. Because sooner or later, reality has a way of breaking through, forcing even the strongest to confront the truth. There will come a moment, a turning point, where Nick will have no choice but to face the consequences of his actions, not just for himself, but for the people he loves most. And that's where the true danger lies, not just in the addiction itself, but in what it could lead to. As hinted by Morrow, the real breaking point may not come from Nick's own suffering, but from the damage he causes to someone else. The idea that his actions, fueled by drugs, clouded judgment, and emotional turmoil, could hurt someone he deeply cares about is a possibility that looms large over everything. It's the kind of moment that changes everything, the kind of moment that strips away denial and forces a person to see the full weight of their choices. Whether it's a tragic accident, a violent misunderstanding, or a failure to act when it matters most, the consequences are closing in, and they promise to be devastating. As tensions rise, one question hangs in the air like an unspoken warning. What happens when Nick is pushed too far? Could he find himself in a situation where he is unable to help Adam Newman during a dangerous confrontation with Matt Clark, his body and mind too compromised to act? Or worse, could the drugs twist his perception so completely that he mistakes Adam for his enemy, lashing out in a moment of confusion and chaos? The possibilities are as chilling as they are heartbreaking, each one pointing toward a future where Nick's actions lead to irreversible consequences. And if Adam is hurt because of him, if someone he loves pays the price for his downward spiral, that may be the moment Nick finally hits rock bottom. The road ahead is anything but easy, and the storm that began with a single crash is far from over. In fact, it's only growing stronger, darker, more unpredictable with each passing day. Nick Newman stands at the center of it all, a man who once seemed unshakable, now struggling to hold himself together as everything threatens to fall apart. And as the story continues to unfold, one thing becomes painfully clear. Before things can get better, they're going to get much, much worse. And as the storm continues to gather strength, the tension surrounding Nick Newman begins to feel almost suffocating, like the air itself is growing heavier with every secret he keeps and every pill he takes. The cracks in his carefully constructed facade are no longer subtle. They're widening, threatening to expose everything he's been trying so desperately to hide. Each interaction with the people who love him becomes more fragile, more unpredictable, as the distance between who he is and who he is becoming grows impossible to ignore. There's a restlessness in him now, a quiet desperation that seeps into his every move, making even the simplest moments feel charged with unease. And yet, despite the warning signs flashing all around him, Nick keeps pushing forward, clinging to the illusion that he still has control over a situation that is clearly slipping through his fingers. It's a dangerous game he's playing, one where the stakes are no longer just his own well-being, but the safety and trust of everyone around him. Meanwhile, the shadow of Matt Clark continues to loom large, a constant reminder of how this nightmare began and why Nick refuses to let go. The obsession with finding him hasn't faded, it's intensified, fueled by a toxic mix of anger, pain, and the numbing escape of the drugs coursing through Nick's system. What once may have been a mission for justice is now dangerously close to becoming something far more reckless, something driven by impulse rather than reason. Every step Nick takes toward Matt feels like a step deeper into chaos, where clear thinking is replaced by blurred judgment and raw emotion. And as fate would have it, the path he's on is slowly converging with another, one that involves his brother, Adam Newman, who may soon find himself caught in the crossfire of a situation spiraling out of control. There's an undeniable sense that something catastrophic is building, a moment where everything collides in a way that can't be undone. Perhaps it begins with a confrontation, tense and unpredictable, where Nick's grip on reality is already slipping under the weight of his addiction. The drugs cloud his vision, distort his thoughts, and twist his instincts until he can no longer trust what he sees or feels. In that fragile, volatile state, the unthinkable becomes possible. Nick, driven by fear and confusion, could lash out at the wrong person, mistaking Adam for the enemy he's been hunting. Or maybe it's not an act of aggression, but a moment of failure. Nick collapsing, unconscious and unreachable at the exact moment Adam needs him most. Either way, the outcome points toward the same devastating truth. Nick's choices may lead to someone he loves getting hurt, and there's no escaping the weight of that consequence. For a man who has spent his life being the protector, the one who stands strong when others fall, this kind of failure would cut deeper than anything he's faced before. The realization wouldn't come all at once. It would hit in waves, each one more crushing than the last as the reality of what he's done begins to sink in. The guilt, the regret, the unbearable knowledge that his own actions caused harm to someone he cares about. It would shatter whatever denial he's been holding on to. This is the moment Joshua Morrow alluded to. The true rock bottom where there are no more excuses, no more ways to look away from the truth. It's not just about surviving another day anymore. It's about facing the consequences of every decision that led him here. And in that moment, stripped of pride and illusion, Nick may finally see just how far he's fallen. But even in the darkest moments, there's a flicker of something else. Something fragile but powerful enough to change everything if he lets it. Rock bottom isn't just an end, it's also a beginning. A chance to rebuild from the ground up. For Nick, that means confronting the addiction he's been denying, accepting the help he's been refusing, and finding the strength to fight his way back from the edge. It won't be easy, and it certainly won't be quick. The road to recovery is long, filled with setbacks, pain, and moments of doubt that threaten to pull him back into the darkness. But for the first time, there may be a reason strong enough to keep him moving forward. Not just for himself, but for the people he almost lost along the way. As the dust begins to settle and the consequences of this devastating chapter come into focus, one thing becomes clear. Nick Newman's story is far from over. In fact, it's entering one of its most powerful and transformative phases yet. The man who once refused to ask for help may soon find himself learning what it truly means to rely on others, to be vulnerable, and to grow in ways he never thought possible. And while the scars of what's happened will never fully fade, they may serve as a reminder of just how close he came to losing everything, and how much it took to find his way back. Because in the end, this isn't just a story about addiction or sukut. It's a story about consequences, redemption, and the strength it takes to rise again when everything has fallen apart. In the aftermath of everything that's about to unfold, the world around Nick Newman will never feel quite the same again, as if the very foundation he once stood on has been shaken beyond recognition. The fallout won't be immediate or clean. It will linger, heavy and complicated, in every glance, every conversation, every silence that stretches just a little too long. The people who love him will struggle to reconcile the man they know with the choices he's made, torn between anger, heartbreak, and a desperate hope that he can still find his way back. Trust, once fractured, won't be easily restored, and Nick will feel that distance in ways that cut deeper than any physical pain he's endured. There will be moments where the weight of it all threatens to crush him. where the temptation to retreat back into the numb escape of drugs whispers louder than ever. But this time, something will be different, because he's seen what that path leads to, and he can't unsee it. For Adam Newman, the impact will be just as profound, if not more so, depending on how deeply he's been hurt in the chaos that unfolded. Whether it's physical injury, emotional betrayal, or a mixture of both, the dynamic between the brothers will shift in a way that can't simply be undone with apologies. There's history there, years of conflict, rivalry, and hard-earned understanding, and this incident threatens to reopen wounds that never fully healed. And yet, within that pain, there may also be an unexpected opportunity, a fragile chance for honesty that's long been overdue. Because sometimes it takes hitting the lowest point to strip away the defenses, to force two people to see each other clearly for the first time in years. Whether that leads to reconciliation or drives them further apart will depend on what happens next, and on whether Nick is truly ready to face the damage he's caused. As the days pass, the reality of recovery begins to settle in. Not as a sudden transformation, but as a slow, grueling process that tests every ounce of Nick's resolve. The withdrawal, both physical and emotional, will be relentless, pulling him into moments of vulnerability that leave him exposed in ways he's never experienced before. This is where the true battle begins, far away from the chaos of confrontations and dramatic turning points, in the quiet, painful effort of choosing to keep going one day at a time. The idea that once defined his survival, just get through the next day, takes on a new meaning now, no longer about sustaining an addiction, but about escaping it. And in those moments, when the path forward feels impossibly steep, it's the support he once refused that may become his only lifeline. The presence of those who refuse to give up on him becomes a quiet but powerful force, guiding him through the darkness even when he can't see the way himself. Their patience, their anger, their unwavering belief that he can be better. It all blends into something that slowly begins to break through the walls Nick has built around himself. There will be setbacks, moments where he stumbles and questions whether he's strong enough to change, whether redemption is even possible after everything that's happened. But each time he gets back up, each time he chooses to keep fighting, it becomes a small victory against the version of himself that nearly destroyed everything. And in those victories, no matter how small, there's a growing sense that maybe, just maybe, this isn't the end of his story. Looking ahead, the scars of this journey will remain, etched into every relationship, every decision, every quiet moment of reflection. But those scars may also serve as a reminder of what he's overcome, of how close he came to losing not just himself, but everyone he holds dear. The man who emerges from this won't be the same Nick Newman who stepped into that car crash or walked out of that hospital driven by anger and pride. He'll be someone shaped by pain, by consequence, by the hard-earned understanding that strength isn't about standing alone. It's about knowing when to reach out. And as the story continues to unfold, there's a sense that this chapter, as dark and devastating as it has been, may ultimately lead to something deeper, something more meaningful than anything Nick has faced before. Because in the end, this isn't just about survival, it's about transformation. It's about a man who lost his way, who fell further than he ever thought possible, and who now stands at the edge of a new beginning, uncertain but determined. The road ahead will be long, and the echoes of the past will never fully fade. But for the first time in a long time, there's a possibility of something different. Not perfection, not a complete erasure of what's been done, but growth, understanding, and the fragile, powerful hope that even after everything, it's not too late to become something better.